Kylie Kelce had recorded thousands of podcasts in her life, but she could sense that day was going to be different. Travis was more tense than usual, more thoughtful. When the conversation turned to family, marriage, and the future, Travis suddenly cut himself off. The small box he picked up from the table shocked everyone. Inside was Taylor Swift's engagement ring, and this moment marked the beginning of a new chapter in America's most talked about love story. What I'm about to tell you in this story is much deeper and more surprising than anything you've seen in the media. In this story, nothing is as it appears. The February afternoon light filtered through the recording studio windows in Philadelphia, casting long shadows across the familiar setup of Not Going to Lie. Kylie Kelce had walked into this space hundreds of times before, but something felt fundamentally different as she settled into her chair across from Travis. The usual energy that filled the room before recording, that mix of anticipation and casual family banter, had been replaced by something heavier, more electric. Travis Kelce, the man who had built a career on being larger than life, seemed different somehow. His usual boisterous confidence had been replaced by something quieter, more contemplative. He kept running his hands through his hair, a nervous habit Kylie had noticed since he was a teenager trying to impress girls at family barbecues. But this felt different. This felt significant. "You okay?" Kylie asked, adjusting her headphones and studying Travis's face with the practiced eye of someone who'd been reading people's emotions for a living. She'd known him for nearly a decade now, had watched him evolve from Jason's cocky little brother to an NFL superstar to whatever he was becoming now. Every instinct she had was telling her that something significant was about to happen. Travis fidgeted with something just out of her line of sight, his large hands uncharacteristically delicate in their movements. These were hands that had caught thousands of passes, hands that had signed millions of dollars worth of contracts. But right now, they were trembling slightly as they manipulated whatever object was capturing his attention. "Yeah, I'm good, just thinking about some stuff," he said. But his voice lacked its usual conviction. Behind him, the production team moved around with practiced efficiency, checking sound levels and adjusting camera angles. But even they seemed to sense that today's recording was going to be different. The usual chatter and joking had been replaced by a focused quiet. Mike, their longtime sound engineer, caught Kylie's eye and raised his eyebrows questioningly. In all the years they'd been working together, he'd never seen Travis this subdued before a recording. Kylie gave him a small shrug that said, "I have no idea either, but let's see where this goes." The red recording light came on, and suddenly they were live, broadcasting to an audience that hung on every word the Kelce family shared. The intro music played, and Kylie launched into her usual opening. But she could feel Travis's distraction like a physical presence in the room. They started with the typical topics: how Travis was handling the off-season, his various business ventures, updates on Jason's recovery from retirement. Kylie guided the conversation with the skill of someone who'd been doing this for years, but she could feel Travis's mind elsewhere. His answers were shorter than usual, lacking the colorful anecdotes and self-deprecating humor that made him such a compelling guest. 20 minutes into the recording, as they discussed family traditions and how the Kelce clan maintained their connections despite busy schedules and geographic distance, something shifted. Travis suddenly stopped mid-sentence, as if a switch had been flipped in his brain. "Actually," he said, his voice taking on a weight that hadn't been there moments before, "there's something I've been wanting to share with the family, something that's been on my mind for weeks." Kylie's producer instincts kicked in immediately. This wasn't scripted. This wasn't part of their planned discussion about life after football or managing public scrutiny. This was something entirely organic, entirely real, and those moments always made for the most compelling content. But looking at Travis's face, she realized this wasn't about content at all. That's when she noticed it, the small velvet box that had been sitting among the usual podcast paraphernalia since they'd started recording. Water bottles, notepads, phones, and this tiny box that suddenly became the most important object in the room. How had she missed it? How had no one on the production team mentioned it? "Travis," Kylie whispered, her voice barely audible over the studio's ambient sound. She wasn't asking a question. She was acknowledging what was about to happen, what was about to change everything. He smiled then, and for the first time that day, he looked like himself again. The nervous energy transformed into something warmer, more joyful. "I think you'll like this more than any other story I could tell you," he said, his Kansas City accent thick with emotion. Travis reached for the box with movement so deliberate they seemed reverent. The studio held its breath as he lifted it, and Kylie could see that even the cameramen had stopped their usual adjustments to focus entirely on what was happening. The box opened with the softest click, revealing Taylor Swift's engagement ring nestled in cream-colored silk. The collective gasp from the production team was audible, and Kylie felt her own breath catch in her throat. This wasn't the massive statement piece that tabloids had speculated about for months. This wasn't some over-the-top creation designed to match Taylor's superstar status. This was something entirely different, and that difference spoke volumes about who Taylor Swift really was when the cameras stopped rolling. The ring was a masterpiece of understated elegance. A classic solitaire setting held a brilliant cut diamond, probably around 2 carats, Kylie estimated, that had clearly been chosen for its quality rather than its size. The diamond caught the studio lights and threw tiny rainbows across the table, thus each facet perfectly cut to maximize its natural brilliance. The platinum band was slender and timeless, with delicate engraving visible along the inside that would remain forever private between Travis and Taylor. "Oh my God, Travis," Kylie breathed, reaching toward the ring and then stopping herself. "Can I?" "Of course," he said, lifting the ring from its silk nest with the care usually reserved for newborn babies or priceless artifacts. "She wanted you to be the first in the family to see it." The weight of the ring surprised her when he placed it gently in her palm. Not just its physical weight, though platinum and diamond definitely had substance, but the emotional weight of what it represented. This small circle of metal and stone was the symbol of a love story that had captivated the world, but more importantly, born. It was the promise between two people who had chosen each other against impossible odds. Kylie held the ring up to the light, watching the diamond catch and reflect the studio's careful lighting setup. The cut was absolutely perfect. Someone had spent considerable time selecting this particular stone, but what struck her most was how right it looked, how perfectly it seemed to capture both Taylor's elegance and her practicality. "Tell me about choosing it," she said, her voice thick with emotion as she continued to examine the ring from different angles. Travis leaned back in his chair, his whole demeanor shifting as he settled into the story. The nervousness was gone now, replaced by the kind of joy that comes from sharing something precious with someone you trust completely. "Man, Kylie, it was an adventure. We spent weeks researching jewelers, not the obvious celebrity places, but family-owned shops with real craftsmen. Taylor had this vision of what she wanted, but it wasn't about size or sparkle, it was about meaning." He paused, collecting his thoughts. "We ended up at this place in Nashville, this family-owned shop that's been there for like 60 years. The owner, Frank, was probably 75 years old, and he had these weathered hands that told stories about decades of creating beautiful things." Kylie could picture it. Travis and Taylor, two of the most famous people in the world, sitting in some small Nashville jewelry shop like any other young couple planning their future together. Frank sat us down in his office, which was basically just a desk crammed between display cases, and he asked us something I wasn't expecting. "Yes," he said, "before we talk about rings, tell me about your relationship, not what I've read in magazines, not what your publicist would say. Tell me the real thing." Travis's whole face lit up with the memory. Taylor went first. She told Frank that our relationship was like her favorite song, the kind that sounds simple when you first hear it, but reveals more layers the more you listen. She said we were comfortable together in a way that felt both familiar and surprising, like we'd known each other forever, but were still discovering new things about each other every day. Kylie nodded, understanding completely. She'd witnessed their interactions at family gatherings, had seen the way they moved around each other with an ease that spoke of deep compatibility and genuine affection. "And what did you tell him?" Kylie prompted, us fascinated by this glimpse into their private world. "I told Frank that being with Taylor felt like coming home," Travis said simply, but there was a depth to his voice that suggested volumes of meaning behind those words. Not in a boring, settle down kind of way, but in a safe way. Like I could be completely myself, including all the parts of myself that I wasn't sure were worth loving, and she would still be there. I told him that she made me want to be better, without making me feel like I wasn't already enough. The studio was completely silent except for the soft hum of recording equipment. Even the usually bustling production team had stopped moving. Everyone caught up in the intimacy of the moment. Mike, the sound engineer, was wiping his eyes behind his equipment. "Frank listened to us talk for maybe an hour," Travis continued. His eyes taking on that distant quality that people get when they're reliving a particularly meaningful memory. He asked us about our daily routines, what we did together when no one was watching, what made us laugh, what we argued about. He wanted to understand not just how we felt about each other, but how we functioned as a team. Kylie was struck by how different this approach was from what she'd expected. Most people choosing engagement rings focused on the technical aspects, the 4 C's, the setting style, the metal type, but Frank had wanted to understand the relationship itself. Then he disappeared into the back of his shop for what felt like the longest 20 minutes of my life, Travis said, laughing at the memory. Taylor and I just sat there, holding hands and trying not to panic. What if he didn't have anything that felt right? What if we were being too picky? What if this whole romantic notion of finding the perfect ring was just fantasy? But when he came back, Travis continued, his voice gaining momentum, he was carrying this ring. Not the most expensive one in the case, not the biggest diamond, but the one that felt exactly right the moment we saw it. Frank had somehow translated everything we'd told him about our relationship into this physical object that captured who we were together. Kylie examined the ring again with this new context, seeing how every element seemed intentionally chosen. The classic setting that would never go out of style, like their commitment to each other. The perfect proportions that balanced elegance with practicality. It's like their relationship balanced public demands with private needs. The quality of the diamond that revealed new facets when examined closely, like their love that deepened with time and attention. There's something else, Travis said, his voice dropping to an almost conspiratorial whisper. Something that makes this ring even more special. He gestured for Kylie to look more closely at the band. There, etched in script so delicate it was almost microscopic, was a short phrase that she had to squint to make out. What does it say? She asked, holding the ring closer to the light. Our song, Travis replied, and his voice carried the weight of shared history. It's a reference to the first song Taylor ever wrote about me. Back when we were just friends, and she was helping me process some complicated stuff I was going through after a tough loss. The song was never released, never recorded officially. It was just for me, just for us. Kylie felt tears prick her eyes. This wasn't just an engagement ring. It was a love letter rendered in platinum and diamond, a promise that honored not just their future together, but the foundation they'd built as friends first. Frank was able to engrave it inside the band, Travis explained, so that every time Taylor looks at the ring, she'll remember that our relationship has been built on music and understanding and genuine friendship from the very beginning. The tears that had been threatening finally spilled over, and Kylie didn't bother to wipe them away. Behind the cameras, she could see that several members of the production team were also getting emotional. This wasn't just a celebrity engagement announcement. This was a window into something real and beautiful and honest. Travis, she said, her voice breaking slightly, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I'm not talking about the ring itself, though it's absolutely gorgeous. I'm talking about the thought and intention behind every single element, the way you two approach this together. Travis nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. That's what I love about Taylor, he said. She could have wanted anything, any ring, any setting, any size diamond. Money wasn't a factor, you know. Her success, my success, we could have afforded literally anything. But what she wanted was something that reflected who we actually are when no one's watching, not who people think we are or who they want us to be. The conversation that followed revealed layers of their relationship that the public never saw. Travis talked about how they'd learned to navigate their different communication styles, his directness versus Taylor's more measured, thoughtful approach, how they'd figured out ways to support each other's demanding careers without losing their individual identities. We made a pact early on, Travis explained, settling deeper into his chair as he opened up about their private world. No matter how crazy things get externally, and trust me, it gets crazy, we protect our foundation. We have date nights where work is completely off limits. We take trips where we're completely offline. But we've created this bubble where we can just be Travis and Taylor, not the brands or the public personas. Kylie was struck by the maturity of their approach. That must take incredible discipline. It does, Travis admitted, especially because both of our careers depend on public engagement to some degree. But we learned early that if we don't protect the real relationship, there won't be anything authentic left to share with the world anyway. He shared specific examples that illustrated their commitment to maintaining normalcy, how Taylor would leave little notes in his gym bag when he had particularly tough training sessions, how they developed their own language of inside jokes and meaningful looks that helped them communicate in crowded rooms. How she'd taught him to appreciate small moments, making coffee together on Sunday mornings, reading in comfortable silence, the way she hummed unconsciously while doing mundane tasks like folding laundry. She sees parts of me that I didn't even know existed, Travis admitted, his voice soft with wonder. And somehow, she loves those parts most of all. The parts that aren't athletic or successful or media trained. Just the regular guy parts that worry about whether I'm good enough or smart enough or worthy enough. Kylie asked about their future plans beyond the wedding, and Travis's entire demeanor brightened. We want to build something lasting, not just a marriage, but a real partnership. We talk about the house we want to buy somewhere between our careers, the traditions we want to start, even how we want to handle the inevitable challenges that come with any relationship. He described how they'd already started blending their lives in meaningful ways that went far beyond their public appearances. Taylor had spent hours learning the intricacies of football strategy so she could better understand his passion and the pressures he faced. Travis had taught himself basic piano chords so he could occasionally accompany her when she worked on songs at home. We've created this shared calendar system, Travis explained, laughing at how domestic it sounded. It balances her tour schedule with my training commitments, but more importantly, it ensures we're prioritizing time together, not just the big moments, but regular Tuesday night dinners and lazy Saturday mornings. The ring, he explained, represented all of that intentionality. It's not just about getting married or making some grand romantic gesture. It's about choosing each other every day in all the small ways that actually matter. The ring is beautiful, but what it symbolizes is our commitment to building something real together. As they discussed Taylor's integration into the Kelce family, Travis became visibly more animated. She fits so naturally that sometimes I forget she wasn't always part of our chaos. She plays board games with the kids and actually listens to their nonsense stories. She asks Jason real questions about his recovery and retirement transition. She remembers that you take your coffee with oat milk and that mom gets stressed about hosting but loves it anyway. Kylie nodded. Remembering family dinners where Taylor had insisted on helping in the kitchen, her sleeves rolled up, completely focused on whatever task she'd been given. She doesn't perform being part of the family, she just is. Exactly, Travis said, and that means everything to me. My family's opinion matters. If you guys didn't genuinely like her, if she didn't fit, it would have been a problem. But she's never trying to impress anyone or be anyone other than herself. Travis shared a story about Taylor's developing relationship with his parents that Kylie hadn't heard before. My mom was nervous at first, not because she didn't like Taylor, but because she was worried about the attention it would bring to our family. You know how mom values our privacy and normalcy. Taylor sensed that immediately and spent hours with her during that first visit, just talking about regular stuff, cooking, gardening, mom's book club. By the end of the weekend, mom was showing her my most embarrassing baby photos and treating her like one of her own kids. The image made Kylie laugh, picturing Taylor Swift sitting at Donna Kelce's kitchen table, probably wearing sweats and no makeup, looking at pictures of Travis in various stages of awkward adolescence. She has this way, Travis continued, of making people feel comfortable being themselves around her. It's not something she does intentionally, it's just who she is. She's genuinely interested in other people's lives and stories. As the recording session entered its third hour, Travis carefully placed the ring back in its velvet box. She's wearing a simple placeholder band for now, he explained, something that won't attract attention when she's out in public. We wanted to have this conversation with family, to share this moment before the real ring becomes public knowledge and gets dissected by every jewelry expert and fashion blogger in the world. Kylie understood completely. Once that ring appeared on Taylor's finger in public, it would cease to be just a symbol of their love and become a topic of endless analysis and speculation. Every angle would be photographed, every detail would be interpreted, every public appearance would be scrutinized for clues about their relationship. The episode aired 3 weeks later after careful editing that preserved the intimacy of the moment while respecting the couple's privacy. The response was immediate immediate and overwhelming. But within minutes of the ring's reveal, social media platforms crashed under the weight of commentary and analysis. Fashion experts rushed to identify the jeweler and estimate the ring's value. Relationship specialists offered their thoughts on what the couple's choices revealed about their future together. But the comments that meant the most to both Travis and Kylie were the ones that recognized what they'd tried to accomplish. Viewers who said they could hear the genuine love and respect in Travis's voice when he talked about Taylor. Fans who appreciated that the ring was beautiful without being ostentatious, meaningful without being over the top. People who understood that sometimes the most profound moments happen not on red carpets or in grand public gestures, but in recording studios between family members who trust each other enough to share their most precious secrets. Months later, Travis would reflect on that February afternoon as a turning point, not in his relationship with Taylor that had been solid and growing stronger long before the ring existed, but in his understanding of what it meant to share your life with someone while maintaining the boundaries that keep your most precious moments sacred. The ring now sits on Taylor's finger as she writes songs and performs for millions of people around the world, but its real significance lies not in its beauty or its symbolism, but in what it represents. Two people who found each other against impossible odds and chose to build something real together. Something that could withstand any amount of scrutiny and speculation and still remain authentically theirs. And in a podcast recording studio in Philadelphia, Kylie Kelce had been privileged to witness the moment when that choice became tangible. When love became a promise you could hold in your hand and examine in the light. The weight of that privilege wasn't lost on her, and it wouldn't be forgotten by anyone who heard the story. Because sometimes, in a world full of grand gestures and viral moments and manufactured romance, the most meaningful thing you can do is show someone a ring and say simply, "This is what love looks like when it's real." And in sharing that moment with the world, Travis and Kylie reminded everyone that beneath all the headlines and speculation and public fascination, as the most powerful force in any relationship isn't fame or fortune or public approval. It's the quiet certainty that you found your person and the courage to build a life together one small sacred moment at a time.